Have you ever wondered why some people seem to drain every ounce of peace from your life, no matter how kind, patient, or understanding you are? You could give them your time, your energy, your trust, and somehow it's never enough. They twist your words, question your intentions, and make you feel like the villain in your own story. And you keep asking yourself, what am I doing wrong? But here's the truth. You're not doing anything wrong. You're just dealing with someone who feeds off chaos. You see, toxic people don't want peace, they want control. They don't want connection, they want reaction. The more you defend yourself, the more fuel you give them. It's like playing chess with someone who keeps flipping the board every time you're about to win. You can't reason with that. You can't outplay someone who isn't playing fair. The only real power you have is learning how not to play their game at all. Most people think dealing with toxic people means confronting them, proving your worth, or finally getting them to understand how much they've hurt you. But that's not smart. That's emotional quicksand. The harder you fight to be understood by someone who thrives on misunderstanding you, the deeper you sink. So what's the smarter way? It's not about cutting everyone off or pretending to be cold. It's about mastering the art of emotional intelligence, knowing when to speak, when to walk away, and when silence is louder than any explanation you could ever give. Because the real power isn't in changing toxic people, it's in making them irrelevant. This isn't about being ruthless. It's about being wise. It's about learning how to protect your energy like it's oxygen. Because it is. You can't breathe, build, or become your best self if you're constantly surrounded by people who poison your air. So today, we're going to talk about the smartest way to deal with toxic people, not with anger, not with revenge, but with clarity, strength, and strategy. By the end of this, you won't just know how to handle toxic people, you'll understand why they can no longer handle you. The first step to dealing with toxic people isn't confrontation, it's recognition. Because you can't fix what you refuse to see. And the truth is, most people don't see toxicity for what it is until it's already taken root. It doesn't show up wearing a warning sign. It shows up disguised as care, concern, or connection. Toxicity doesn't always scream. Sometimes it whispers. It manipulates, it guilt trips, it gaslights. It turns your empathy against you and makes you question your own perception of reality. That's how it wins. Through confusion. Toxic people are masters of emotional camouflage. They'll shift between charm and cruelty, like it's second nature. One moment they're kind, understanding, even generous. The next, they're dismissive, cold, or cutting. And that inconsistency becomes addictive because your brain starts craving the good version of them. You hold on to the moments when they were sweet or supportive, hoping those flashes of kindness mean something real. But what you don't realize is that those moments are part of the manipulation. They're bait, emotional currency they use to buy your loyalty. Recognizing the pattern means seeing through the cycle, not just reacting to the moments. Every toxic person follows a similar rhythm: idealize, devalue, discard, repeat. They start by making you feel special, like you've found someone who truly understands you. Then, once they have your trust, the shift begins. They start testing your boundaries, making small comments that sting but don't seem worth confronting. They'll make you feel guilty for things you didn't do, or overreact when you stand up for yourself. And when you finally get fed up, they'll flip the narrative. Suddenly, you're the problem. And here's where most people get stuck. They keep looking for logic in someone else's manipulation. They keep asking, why would they do this to me? As if understanding it will make it hurt less. But toxic behavior isn't rational. It's emotional warfare. It's about control, not clarity. Every excuse you accept, every second chance you give, every boundary you soften, that's a victory for them. Because now they know you'll tolerate the cycle as long as they sprinkle in just enough kindness to keep you hoping. The smartest thing you can do is stop explaining their behavior and start observing it. Watch what they do, not what they say. People can say sorry, they can promise change, they can tell you they didn't mean it. But actions never lie. If their apology comes with the same pattern of disrespect, it's not remorse, it's manipulation. You don't need more words from them, you need consistency. And if you can't find that, you need distance. Another way toxic people control you is by making you doubt your perception. This is where gaslighting comes in. They'll tell you you're too sensitive, too emotional, too dramatic. They'll twist facts and rewrite events until you start apologizing for things that weren't your fault. You begin walking on eggshells, second-guessing your reactions, even your memories. That's the psychological trap. They make you distrust yourself so you keep depending on their version of reality. The moment you start thinking, maybe I'm overreacting, ask yourself, who benefits from you believing that? Because it's not you. Recognizing toxic behavior also means understanding that not every fight is worth having. You can't win an argument with someone who doesn't care about truth. They care about control. They don't argue to resolve, they argue to exhaust. They want you frustrated, defensive, emotionally drained. The more reactive you become, the easier it is for them to twist the situation. The smartest response is calm detachment, seeing their outbursts or guilt trips for what they are. Emotional manipulation tactics. When you stop giving them the reaction they crave, you take away their power. But recognition doesn't just happen once. It's an ongoing process of awareness. You'll start noticing the red flags you used to excuse, the jokes that were actually insults, the apologies that were really manipulations, the moments of silence they used to punish you. You'll see how often you explained, defended, or tried to earn their approval. And when you finally see that pattern clearly, something inside you shifts. You stop asking, why are they like this? And start asking, why am I still allowing this? Recognizing the pattern also requires taking responsibility, not for their actions, but for your boundaries. Because toxic people can't operate without permission. They rely on your silence, your guilt, your desire to be fair. They count on you being too kind to call them out, too empathetic to walk away. But awareness is the beginning of freedom. Once you see the game, you can't unsee it. Once you understand the manipulation, it loses its power. The moment you stop reacting emotionally and start observing logically, you become untouchable. You move from being their target to being their mirror. And toxic people hate mirrors because mirrors reflect truth. You don't have to fight them, you just have to stop feeding them. When they can no longer trigger you, they lose control. So recognize the patterns, the lies that sound like love, the guilt disguised as concern, the manipulation wrapped in charm. Stop making excuses for people who show you who they are. Over and over again, it's not your job to heal them, fix them, or understand them. It's your job to protect your peace, your mind, and your energy. The smartest way to deal with toxic people starts with this. See the truth, accept it for what it is, and refuse to let denial disguise itself as kindness. Because once you see clearly, you stop playing their game, and that's when you finally start winning. One of the hardest lessons you'll ever learn in life is that you cannot save people who don't want to be saved. You can love them, care for them, and give them everything you have. But if their comfort lies in chaos, your love will only drown you. There's a certain kind of person who thrives in dysfunction, who wears their pain like armor and uses it to control everyone around them. They don't want healing, they want attention. They don't want change, they want control. And the sooner you realize that, the sooner you'll stop wasting your life trying to fix someone who enjoys being broken. We're taught from an early age that love means helping others, that kindness means understanding, that loyalty means standing by people no matter what. And that's beautiful until it becomes self-destruction. Because when you give that kind of unconditional devotion to the wrong person, they'll use it as a weapon. They'll drain your energy, test your patience, and twist your compassion into compliance. You'll start thinking that if you just love them harder, if you just understand them more, if you just hold on a little longer, they'll finally change. But they won't. Not because they can't, but because they don't want to. Toxic people are addicted to the chaos they create. It gives them a sense of power, a feeling of control. When everything around them is unstable, they feel needed. They draw people in with their pain, make you feel special for being the one who gets them, and then punish you when you try to help. It's a psychological trap. They keep you hooked by making you feel responsible for their happiness. You become the caretaker, the rescuer, the emotional sponge. And while you're busy fixing their problems, they're busy creating new ones. You can't pour yourself into someone who has a hole in their soul they refuse to fill. You can't outlove someone's self-destruction. You can't reason someone out of behavior they're not ashamed of. When a person enjoys being broken, they'll sabotage any attempt you make to heal them because healing means accountability, and accountability means losing control. So instead, they'll play the victim, twist every situation to make you the bad guy, and convince you that walking away means you never cared. But walking away doesn't mean you don't care. It means you finally do, for yourself. There's a part of you that wants to believe you can save them because it gives your pain purpose. It's easier to think, if I just do more, this will work, than to accept that no amount of love can reach someone who chooses to stay broken. That belief becomes your prison. You start taking responsibility for their moods, their mistakes, their lack of effort. You start measuring your worth by their temporary moments of appreciation. But that's not love, that's emotional dependency. You've become addicted to their chaos just like they are. Only you call it compassion. You have to understand this. Love doesn't mean fixing. Love means supporting someone who's trying to fix themselves. There's a huge difference. If they're making effort, taking accountability, seeking help, then yes, stand by them. But if all they do is complain, blame, and drain, your love is just enabling their comfort in dysfunction. The more you fix, the less they learn. The more you forgive, the less they change. Because in their mind, why would they grow when you'll always be there to clean up the mess? The smartest thing you can do in these situations is step back, not out of anger, but out of clarity. You cannot teach someone to value peace if they only feel alive in conflict. You cannot make someone see their own toxicity if they refuse to look in the mirror. You can't heal someone by breaking yourself in the process. That's not strength, that's sacrifice, and it always ends the same way. You're empty, they're unchanged. You'll know you've been trapped in this cycle when every interaction feels like walking through emotional landmines. One day they're open and vulnerable, the next they're distant or cruel. They'll pull you close with guilt, then push you away with blame. You'll spend hours trying to decode their moods, replaying every word you said, wondering if you caused their outburst. That's how they control you, not through fear, but through confusion. You'll stop trusting your instincts because they've trained you to believe that you're the problem. But the moment you recognize this manipulation for what it is, you regain your power. The truth is, some people don't want peace. They want control, attention, and drama because it gives them identity. They've built their lives around being the victim, and if you take that away, they lose their sense of self. So instead of trying to fix them, you have to learn to release them. Let them face their chaos without you as their emotional safety net. Let them experience the consequences of their behavior without your constant rescue. Because every time you save them, you're protecting them from the very pain that could force them to change. You might feel guilt at first. You'll wonder if walking away makes you cold or heartless. But let me tell you, it takes far more strength to detach with love than to cling out of fear. Walking away doesn't mean you've given up on them. It means you've chosen to stop betraying yourself. It means you finally understand that you can't heal in the same environment that made you sick. You can't fix people who enjoy being broken, but you can learn from them. You can learn the importance of boundaries, of self-respect, of protecting your emotional energy. You can learn that your empathy is a gift, but it's not free. Not everyone deserves access to your heart, your time, or your peace. The right people won't drain you. They'll inspire you. They won't make you question your worth. They'll remind you of it. So stop trying to be someone's savior. Stop believing that your love can rewrite their story. You are not their therapist, their crutch, or their cure. You are your own responsibility, and your peace is your priority. The moment you stop trying to fix people who enjoy being broken, you reclaim all the energy you were wasting on proving your worth. And you'll realize something powerful. You never needed to fix them. You just needed to free yourself. Life will constantly test you with people who push your buttons, provoke your emotions, and challenge your patience. Some will do it intentionally to gain control, others unconsciously because that's how they've always operated. But the truth is, you can't control how others act, what they say, or how they treat you. You can only control how you respond, and that single decision, how you respond, determines whether you live in peace or chaos. When you're dealing with toxic people, the greatest mistake you can make is letting them dictate your emotions. They thrive on reaction. They feed off the energy you give them, your anger, your frustration, your explanations. Every time you react impulsively, you hand them power. You tell them, without words, you can control me. But when you learn to pause, breathe, and choose your response, you take that power back. You stop being their puppet and start being your own master. You have to understand something fundamental about toxic people. They don't argue to understand, they argue to dominate. Their goal isn't resolution. It's emotional chaos. They want to see you flustered, defensive, apologetic, or angry, because it reassures them that they still have influence over you. It's not about right or wrong, it's about control. So the smartest strategy isn't to argue louder, it's to respond wiser. Silence, calmness, and emotional composure are the weapons they can't fight against. There's a kind of power that comes from not reacting. When you stay calm in the middle of chaos, you're sending a message louder than words. You don't control me anymore. Because calmness isn't weakness, it's emotional discipline. It's the awareness that you don't have to attend every argument you're invited to. You don't have to justify your boundaries. You don't have to prove your worth to people who've already decided not to see it. Most people misunderstand control. They think it's about managing other people's behavior, about making others respect them, listen to them, or treat them fairly. But real control has nothing to do with others. Real control is mastering yourself, your reactions, your tone, your energy. You can't stop someone from insulting you, but you can choose not to absorb their words. You can't stop someone from trying to manipulate you, but you can refuse to engage. You can't stop someone from being toxic, but you can decide that their behavior no longer deserves your emotional investment. And this takes practice, because emotions are powerful. When someone attacks or disrespects you, your instinct is to defend yourself. But that instinct, when left unchecked, becomes a trap. You get dragged into endless arguments, trying to explain your intentions, trying to make them understand. But here's the truth. Toxic people don't misunderstand you. They misrepresent you. There's a difference. They twist your words because confusion gives them control. So stop trying to explain. Don't waste your breath trying to make them see reason. Some people hear only what keeps their narrative alive. Instead, practice emotional distance. That doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop reacting. You start viewing situations objectively rather than emotionally. When someone insults you, instead of taking it personally, you start seeing it as information, a reflection of them, not you. When they try to provoke you, you observe the tactic and stay centered. This level of awareness doesn't come overnight, but once you develop it, your peace becomes unshakable. One powerful technique is the pause. When someone says or does something that triggers you, don't respond immediately. Take a breath. That small moment of stillness between stimulus and reaction is where your freedom lies. In that space, you can choose whether to engage or disengage, whether to react from emotion or respond from wisdom. Toxic people hate that pause because it removes their control. They expect an emotional outburst. When they don't get it, they're forced to face their own behavior, and that's something they avoid at all costs. Another key part of controlling your response is understanding triggers. Everyone has them, certain tones, phrases, or actions that bring out instant anger or defensiveness. Toxic people are experts at finding and pressing those buttons. But once you become aware of your triggers, they lose their power. You stop reacting automatically. You start thinking, this person is trying to get a reaction. I won't give them that satisfaction. That's not passive. That's power under control. Some people think responding calmly means tolerating bad behavior. It doesn't. You can stay calm and still walk away. you can remain composed and still enforce boundaries. Emotional control isn't about suppression. It's about direction. It's about using your emotions as signals, not weapons. Anger can tell you where your boundaries are. Sadness can tell you what needs healing. Disappointment can reveal what you value. But none of these emotions should dictate your response. You acknowledge them, process them, and then respond from strength, not impulse. There will be moments when staying calm feels impossible, when someone is gaslighting you, lying to your face, or twisting your reality. Your instinct will be to fight back. But remember, the more emotional you become, the more they win. They'll point at your reaction and say, "See, you're the crazy one." Don't give them that ammunition. Your silence, your calm tone, your ability to stay centered, that's your armor. It unsettles them because it shows maturity they can't reach. The longer you practice emotional control, the more you'll notice a shift in your life. Toxic people will start to lose interest because you're no longer entertaining their drama. They'll move on to easier targets, people who still crave validation, who still need to be understood. And that's when you'll realize how powerful emotional detachment truly is. It's not coldness, it's clarity. It's knowing that not every battle deserves your energy. It's choosing peace over participation. You can't control the storm, but you can control how you sail through it. The world will always have difficult people, manipulators, liars, critics, and narcissists. But if you can control your response, you can stand in the middle of that storm and remain unshaken. That's real strength. Not shouting louder, not proving your point, but maintaining your peace while others lose theirs. So the next time someone tries to provoke you, remember this. Your reaction is your responsibility. No one can take that from you unless you hand it over. Don't let anyone pull you into their chaos. Stay calm, stay grounded, and remember, power isn't about controlling others. It's about mastering yourself. Because once you do that, no one and nothing can ever control you again. Boundaries are one of the most misunderstood aspects of emotional intelligence. Some people think having boundaries means being cold, distant, or selfish. But the truth is, boundaries aren't walls. They're filters. Walls shut people out. Filters let the right energy in and keep the wrong energy out. They protect your peace, your time, and your emotional health. Without boundaries, even good intentions can destroy you. Because when you let everyone have access to you, you eventually lose access to yourself. People who struggle with boundaries often do so because they equate love with self-sacrifice. They believe being kind means always being available, saying yes to everything, and tolerating behavior that crosses the line. But love without limits isn't love. It's dependency. It's the idea that if you just give enough, others will value you. Yet what actually happens is the opposite. The more you overgive, the more you teach people to take without gratitude. You train them to expect your energy without earning it. And slowly your sense of self begins to fade under the weight of everyone else's needs. Boundaries are not about shutting people out. They're about keeping yourself intact. They're not built out of fear, but out of self-respect. They say, I care about you, but I also care about me. And that's something toxic people will never understand, because your boundaries expose their lack of control. When you start saying no, when you stop over-explaining, when you refuse to tolerate manipulation, they panic. Not because you've changed, but because their access to your energy has. Setting boundaries starts with clarity, knowing what you will and won't accept. You can't expect others to respect a line you haven't drawn. You have to decide what peace looks like for you, what behaviors drain you, and what interactions make you feel small. Once you're clear about that, you can start communicating it, not through long speeches or emotional outbursts, but through consistent action. Boundaries don't need to be announced, they need to be lived. You teach people how to treat you by what you allow, what you stop, and what you reinforce. The problem is, when you first start setting boundaries, you'll feel guilty, especially if you're used to people pleasing. Saying no will feel selfish. Taking space will feel like abandonment. You'll worry about being seen as rude or uncaring. But guilt isn't a sign you're doing something wrong. It's a sign you're doing something new. You're breaking a pattern of self-neglect. And that discomfort is the growing pain of reclaiming your power. Don't confuse guilt with wrongdoing. The people who benefit from your lack of boundaries will always call you selfish the moment you set them. Let them. That's just their way of saying, I can't use you anymore. There's also a difference between boundaries and ultimatums. Boundaries come from self-respect, ultimatums come from control. When you set a boundary, you're not trying to change anyone. You're simply stating what you'll do if certain behavior continues. For example, if you raise your voice, I'll leave the conversation. That's not manipulation. That's self-protection. You're not demanding they change. You're deciding how you'll respond if they don't. You can't control their choices, but you can control your participation. That's where your power lies. One of the smartest things you can learn is that not everyone deserves the same level of access to you. Boundaries allow you to prioritize your energy. Some people can be close to you. Others belong at a distance. You can be kind without being available. You can forgive without allowing re-entry. You can wish someone well without letting them back into your space. Boundaries aren't about anger. They're about alignment. They help you surround yourself with people who respect your presence instead of those who drain it. And sometimes setting boundaries means disappointing people. And that's okay. You can't protect your peace and please everyone at the same time. You'll lose people when you start standing up for yourself, but you'll also lose anxiety, exhaustion, and resentment. The people who truly value you will respect your limits because they want you healthy, not hollow. The ones who don't will call you difficult, distant, or cold. Let them misinterpret you. You're not responsible for how others perceive your boundaries. You're responsible for maintaining them. Boundaries also teach you emotional maturity. They force you to stop expecting others to read your mind. Instead of blaming people for overstepping, you start communicating clearly. You stop saying, it's fine when it's not. You stop over-explaining why you can't do something. You stop making excuses for other people's behavior. The moment you realize that silence is a boundary too, you'll stop wasting words on those committed to misunderstanding you. But boundaries don't just protect you from others. They protect you from yourself. They remind you to rest before you break down, to disconnect before you burn out, to say no before resentment builds. They help you regulate your emotions, your time, and your priorities. They remind you that you are responsible for your own well-being, not anyone else's comfort. Because the truth is, people will take as much as you give, and if you don't draw the line, they'll keep crossing it until you no longer recognize yourself. You have to stop. Feeling like protecting your peace is selfish. You can't heal, grow, or create if your energy is constantly scattered across people who only show up when they need something. You have every right to step back, to be selective, to choose who gets to be close to you. Not everyone deserves access to your heart, your time, or your trust. Boundaries make sure the people who stay in your life are there because they respect you, not because they use you. So don't build walls. Build filters. Let love in, but keep manipulation out. Let kindness flow, but stop enabling toxicity. Let support reach you, but block disrespect at the door. Your boundaries are not a rejection of others. They're an acceptance of yourself. They're a declaration that your peace is no longer up for negotiation. Because when you protect your energy, you're not pushing people away. You're creating space for the right ones to come closer. Boundaries don't make you hard. They make you wise, and wisdom in a world that constantly demands your attention is the greatest protection of all. Detachment is not indifference. It's power. It's the quiet realization that you no longer need to participate in every emotional storm that passes your way. When you learn to detach, you stop being controlled by toxic people, by their moods, their manipulation, or their approval. You rise above the chaos instead of getting lost in it. Because the truth is, not everyone deserves a front row seat to your emotions. Some people only show up to feed on your reactions, not to understand your reality. The smartest way to win against that kind of energy isn't to fight, it's to rise. Detaching doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop carrying. You stop carrying the weight of other people's choices, guilt, drama, and pain. You stop trying to fix what you didn't break. You stop confusing empathy with obligation. When you detach, you're not abandoning anyone. You're returning to yourself. You start protecting your peace like it's oxygen, because it is. You can't breathe, create, or grow when you're constantly suffocating in someone else's chaos. Toxic people thrive on emotional dependency. They want you reactive, invested, and exhausted, because that's how they maintain control. The moment you stop reacting, they lose their grip. Detachment breaks that cycle. It teaches you how to observe instead of absorb. You start seeing their behavior for what it is: manipulation, projection, or insecurity. Instead of taking it personally, you understand that their anger isn't about you, it's about their lack of control. Their guilt trips aren't about love, they're about leverage. And once you see through that, it stops hurting the same way. But detachment isn't built overnight. It's a discipline, the ability to choose peace over participation, silence over confrontation, and distance over drama. It's saying, I refuse to let this energy live rent-free in my head. And that takes strength, especially when your instinct is to defend yourself or prove your innocence. Toxic people will twist your silence, accuse you of being cold, or guilt you into re-engaging. But remember, detachment isn't about punishing them. It's about protecting you. The key to detachment is understanding that you don't need closure to move on. Waiting for closure from a toxic person is like waiting for the storm to apologize for raining. You'll never get it, and you don't need it. The closure comes when you accept the truth, that you deserved better, that you gave your best, and that walking away was the smartest form of self-respect. You don't owe explanations to those who never respected your boundaries. Your silence is the only closure they'll ever get. When you detach, you also elevate. You start to see things differently. You stop chasing validation and start valuing peace. You stop trying to be understood and start being content with understanding yourself. Elevation means realizing that not everyone can come with you, not because you're better than them, but because you're growing beyond them. Some people are lessons, not lifetimes. They are never meant to stay. They were meant to teach you what you needed to heal. Elevation also requires self-awareness. You can't rise above if you're still emotionally tied to proving a point. You can't reach peace while replaying the pain. At some point, you have to let go of the story, the why, the how could they, the what if. The story keeps you stuck. The lesson moves you forward. Detaching doesn't mean pretending it didn't hurt. It means refusing to let the hurt define you. It's acknowledging what happened, taking the wisdom and leaving the weight behind. And as you elevate, you learn the importance of protecting your energy. Because once you start healing, your energy becomes magnetic. And that will attract both light and darkness. People will sense your calm and want to disturb it. They'll test your boundaries, question your peace, and try to pull you back into old habits. That's why protection isn't optional. It's essential. Protecting your energy means being intentional about who gets your time, what gets your attention, and where you place your emotions. You protect your energy by mastering the art of selective access. Not everyone deserves to know your thoughts, your plans, or your pain. Some people only ask how you are so they can use the information against you later. Learn to smile, say little, and keep moving. Mystery is power. The less they know about your life, the less they can manipulate it. Protecting your energy also means limiting your exposure. Not just to toxic people, but to toxic environments, conversations, and habits that drain your peace. You can't heal if you're constantly surrounded by noise. There's strength in walking away without bitterness. There's power in silence. You don't need to make an announcement every time you detach. Just move differently. The people who were meant for your growth will understand. The ones who weren't will complain. Let them. Detachment means no longer explaining your evolution to those committed to misunderstanding it. Sometimes protecting your energy also means protecting your mindset. Guard what you feed your thoughts. Don't replay conversations that hurt you. Replay the lessons they taught you. Don't let bitterness take root. It poisons the peace you worked so hard to build. Forgive, not because they deserve it, but because you deserve freedom. Forgiveness isn't saying what you did was okay. It's saying you no longer have power over me. That's true emotional independence. And when you truly master detachment, something incredible happens. You stop needing closure, validation, or revenge. Your peace becomes your response. Your silence becomes your statement. Your growth becomes your revenge. The people who once had power over you start to fade into irrelevance because you've elevated beyond their reach. You don't have to win arguments. You win by walking away with your energy intact. Protecting your energy doesn't mean isolating yourself. It means being intentional about where you invest your emotions. Give your love to those who nourish you, not those who drain you. Give your time to those who respect it, not those who waste it. Give your forgiveness, but not your access. Because once your energy is clean, calm, grounded, and focused, you become unstoppable. Detachment, elevation, and protection. These are not acts of ego, they're acts of survival. They're how you reclaim yourself after being emotionally drained, manipulated, or broken. You're not being distant. You're being discerning. You're not being heartless. You're being healthy. Because peace isn't found in avoiding people. It's found in mastering yourself. So let them say what they want. Let them think what they want. You don't owe anyone an explanation for your peace. Detach with grace, elevate with purpose, and protect your energy like it's sacred, because it is. When you do, you stop living at the mercy of others and start living in alignment with yourself. And that, right there, is the highest form of freedom. At the end of the day, the smartest way to deal with toxic people isn't about winning a battle. It's about refusing to fight one that doesn't deserve your energy. You can't change someone who's committed to misunderstanding you, and you can't heal in the same space that keeps hurting you. The real victory is walking away with your peace intact, your boundaries firm, and your soul unshaken. Every time you choose to respond with calm instead of anger, silence instead of argument, distance instead of drama, you reclaim your power. Because strength isn't in proving who's right, it's in protecting what's sacred. Toxic people feed on reaction, but they starve in the presence of peace. When you rise above, you don't just escape their control, you redefine the game entirely. So step back, protect your energy, guard your peace like it's the foundation of your life, because it is. Not everyone deserves access to you, not everyone deserves your time, and certainly not everyone deserves your reaction. The strongest move you can ever make is not to fight harder, but to walk away wiser. Detach, elevate, and never apologize for choosing peace over chaos. That's not weakness, that's evolution. That's how you win without ever having to fight.